In this podcast, you will be here. Knights of Vader, Knights of Vader includes, but is not limited to, talk of Star Wars, not ray guns. We can't truly prepare for the jump that follows this song, but hey, we gave it a try. So here's the Knights of Vader. Crystal Fox reports they are divided. Prequel, sequel, cadence of divided. I know that we are just musicians hired, and their time is up, so here's the Knights of Vader.
Impressive. Most impressive.
A big thank you to My Insperiority Complex for providing our theme song. It is April 10th, 2022. My name is Zach Weber, and I am joined by... Oh, God, who do I even begin with? There's so much excitement on this call. Let's start with the Portius with the Mortius. Chris.
Hey, happy to be here to discuss the merits of our audience's opinions.
And we have Grand Admiral Zenger.
Yes, now sponsored by G Fuel. Use code ZengThis at checkout and you won't get a discount, but they'll hopefully ask me why they keep using that code.
Indeed, instead of Audible. And we have Joe Yazzo with us, who does not have a cute nickname as of yet.
Yeah, I'm very, very disheartened by that, but hopefully by the end of this episode we can get a nickname for me.
Yes.
Jedi Joe.
I would like the record to be show that I would like to be called the plus size Jedi.
Okay.
That would be awesome.
I feel like I want to tie it into your history with KB Toys, considering how like Chris and I always like tug this podcast toward like toy collecting. We have to do something with like your toy history and fandom, Joe. Like we'll get there. We'll get there. It'll unfold naturally.
No, that'll be natural.
Yes. And we have one half of My Insperiority Complex, Roberto.
I'm back. I'm ready to talk some math this episode and, explain my algorithms.
Yes, folks, we are back. We're not here to talk about any sort of Star Wars news. There's some Star Wars news?
None.
Something Kenobi, something. The 2 episodes, 2 days later, which was a weird headline, even though it's not that interesting. No, we are here for the Lightsaber Duel nominations. Something, insert Will Smith joke here. So basically, like I said, like I know when we began this call, Chris was like, what's the structure of this? And I'm like, think Eastern European Parliament. Like, we just want somebody, like, we want furniture chucked at each other.
Good. Which
has been a joke of Zenger's now for years. Like, the idea of just, like, what, Zenger? Every romance in Star Wars, the equivalent of throwing folding chairs at each other?
No, it's every romance in Star Wars is 2 chairs stacked on top of each other. Well, romance in Star Wars video games is a picture of 2 chairs stacked on top of each other.
But yes, so I know it's something that we've kind of weirdly, like low-key hyped up over the last how many months, but we're finally here. This is going to be a 2-part episode. Part 1 is nominations, where it's going to be kind of just presenting nominations and just kind of deciding what our finalist list will be. So in this episode, it's going to be very, very unstructured. Expect lots and lots of toy nonsense. Expect lots and lots of just weird tangents. So the sky's the limit, like any sort of typical Knights of Vader discussion. So with that being said, does anybody want to get any tangents out of the way first or any sort of detours?
I'm saving all mine for later.
Zenger, are there any lightsaber duels and detours that we're aware of?
No.
Don't we have like 6 minutes of detours total or something like that?
I don't think anyone ignites their lightsaber in any of this footage.
There was a Weird Al song, an original Weird Al song that was going to be in it, I heard.
Nice.
That's sad that we have been deprived of that.
Kind of odd that we live in an era of like, we're thinking about it, Disney wasn't able to create content for a solid year and they still wouldn't release detours. Solid year where everything came to a grinding halt and they're like, we haven't reached that level yet.
Yeah, this is literally sitting here. Nobody's messing with it.
We don't want to devalue the brand. Think of all the weird stuff, like all the weird sort of depreciation of the Star Wars brand, yet they still have not touched that.
let's veer right into detours for like 5 minutes, but totally relevant. But like obviously like that leak had to have been like a market test of some kind, right? The most recent leak, because otherwise like you're in that industry, you're really rolling the dice with your employment opportunities if you leak stuff like that, right? Unless it was like something that was lying around in a subcontracted office for like 12 years.
Just Seth, I was about to say Seth MacFarlane. Seth Green just sitting there on it, knowing he can't use it. His career's going.
Do you mean Bad Batch voice actor Seth Green? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was him.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I think you're probably onto something. It feels very similar to what happened to like Deadpool back in like the mid 2010s. Again, I still think Disney has its head up its own ass with Star Wars, where it's something you can't laugh at. I still think it's one of those things where, again, what was it, the Wreck-It Ralph 2 thing, where it's like, we can't have Kylo Ren in this. We can't have people mocking the villain. I still don't think they understand Star Wars. I think they've come in, again, it's like, think about it. The only thing we have on the horizon for Star Wars after this is what? Kenobi and Calrissian Endor.
I mean, that's a crazy lot of possibly interesting stuff. I get what you're trying to say, but it's weird that the standard of nothing going on is 2 or 3 TV shows.
Well, the standard of nothing is just that it's all self-serious. As was weirdly introduced to the Facebook group recently, is that like I think it was what James Gunn recently tweeted, like Rogue One's the most underrated Star Wars thing ever.
He's not wrong.
It's like Rogue One's also the lowest grossing Star Wars film outside of Solo. It's the definition of derivative. Like it's entertaining. Like I love Rogue One, but it doesn't do anything to grow Star Wars. It's Star Wars at its safest. And it's weird to think Star Wars at its safest is underrated.
Well, I think I don't know. I think that's a bit of a misread of the situation, Zach, personally. I think it's safe in the sense of time period and iconography, but in terms of like the actual story, I don't think it's that safe. Like if you sort of look outside of original trilogy era and Stormtroopers, like what actually happens in the story is like...
Oh no, I agree. No, to this day, having the idea of the entire ensemble die on screen is something that's novel. But something being so steeped in original trilogy, immediately tied to original trilogy lore, which is odd considering that again, think about it, like Disney has owned Star Wars now for almost a decade, and they've embraced. I think the biggest takeaway from Disney's ownership of Star Wars now for a decade is that they are almost enthusiastically embracing the prequel trilogy. I think that's the biggest takeaway, that like it's almost shocking considering that The Force Awakens begins with "this will begin to make things right," and then 10 years later, the Mandalorian's flying around in the physical embodiment of the Phantom Menace.
Well, something the prequel trilogy has that Rogue One doesn't have is duels, and lots of them. So,
oh no, Rogue One has a duel.
I think Zenger, you and I about to make the same joke. I was going to ask: is Jason Voorhees Darth Vader like murdering a bunch of rebels considered a duel?
I mean, technically, I'll give it to him. It's not his fault they didn't come prepared with lightsabers.
I like that as like a legal defense for if you like shot somebody, Zenger. You'd be like, "No, my fault. They didn't have a gun," you know.
but you know that scene is the real problem with James Gunn saying that that's like the most underrated Star Wars thing, because it's definitely not because of that scene that it's the most underrated Star Wars thing. Like that's the thing that people will take away from it who are barely reading or thinking about it.
Are they still hiding behind the rhetoric of the Vader thing was a reshoot? Are they still hiding behind that? Or they finally admitted that like that was their in with that movie?
I barely remember even reading that, but it wouldn't surprise me, just because it's sort of it's a set and characters that are basically not seen at any other part. So like it kind of makes sense.
I don't know. Like I said, I remember that was their big, because obviously everybody remembers from 5+ years ago, the big thing with Rogue One was like they reshot 2/3 of the movie, and they tried defending it with like, well, Vader, we didn't shoot the Vader thing until like November of 2016, and it's like Vader was in the marketing, like that was in the promotional materials from like a year earlier, so clearly you had bigger things for him other than just sitting on the Death Star. which he wasn't even technically on the Death Star in the movie.
There's shots of him in the trailers that are not in the movie. So
That's what I mean. So like clearly something happened much later in the thing, but like that was always the worst kept secret in Hollywood in 2016 that Vader was coming back.
yeah, but he didn't manage to have any awesome duels when he came back. But they're going to remedy that.
I will argue that is considered a duel in my opinion.
So how many Rebel fleet troopers does it take to qualify as one equal opponent to Darth Vader?
Apparently more than were presented in Rogue One.
So are we putting down the precedent, Zenger, right now that if it involves at least two characters, at least one of which has a lightsaber, then it is a lightsaber duel?
I mean, technically, if we really want to get into it.
If they have a vibro blade with a cortosis weave against a lightsaber, that counts too.
So this opens my eyes up. I didn't really think about it before we got into this. I think when Zach, was pitching this to me, I always thought like, like a sword fight, but with lightsabers, like the very technical definition of a duel. But I mean, I like that we might be able to include Luke versus the Abominable Snowman at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, right? Like, doesn't that count now?
This is totally fundamentally going to break everything, and I completely disagree with
it. All right, so Chris is living up to the expectations here. All right, is there anything else we want to talk about just in Star Wars current events before we get into this? Because there was some, quasi-leaked Kenobi footage, maybe. There's the Entertainment Weekly spread that came out a couple weeks ago. That they wholeheartedly admit that they basically threw the movie out and they basically started from page 1. Is there anything there we want to talk about? Because that show is going to be released in roughly 6 weeks from now.
Darth Vader better than Darth Maul.
Why are you just saying controversial statements?
I prefer neither. I prefer that we don't have any Kenobi show, period. And it's like, let Ewan McDonald sit there right off into the sunset.
Oh, okay.
I don't want any of this, but okay.
You know what? I'm going to put this out there. Is Kenobi versus Maul in Rebels a duel?
Yes.
A highly overrated duel, yes.
Oh, get out!
All right, this is gonna be fun. This is the fun thing about Rob, because Rob has no idea what I imagine most of the weird the into the weeds level duels that we're gonna be referencing. Because I made a list of stuff that I know Rob has no clue about. There's gonna be names that Rob's gonna hear and be like, "Is this a dish at a Taco Bell?" It sounds so nonsensical.
Yeah, I have zero knowledge on this stuff, and I think we said it last time I was on, but way back when Zach pitched this to me, and I finally got around to thinking about it, I was like, "This is the actual scoring algorithm to write them. These are the categories we should base them on. I guess we'll talk about all that, but the rest is up to you guys." I even think, Zach, if I didn't say it before on mic, I want to say it now. When we were talking once, and I was like, "I'm going to need you guys to pick what we rank," and I was like, I don't know, do you want to do the lava one? And you were like, "There's many lava ones." That's where I'm coming from. If not also known by my previous appearances on this show, but that I also called whatever that creature is the Abominable Snowman from Empire Strikes Back. So yes, I need you guys to pick the duels, define a duel, all that stuff. But I'm ready to keep minutes. I'll keep some notes, what we decide to do and stuff like that. But I'm ready, guys. I'm ready to hear the kookiness that I love from Knights of Vader.
So how many slots do we have?
Go ahead, Rob.
That's a great question. I mean, so the general idea is that going to be for each duel that we cover. So for each individual duel that we decide to rank in the next episode, or the part 2 to this episode, we will basically go around the room and everybody will give their scores, kind of a 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, for different categories about that duel. And I don't know if we want to get into what those categories are or something like that. But the amount of stuff we'd be covering, let's say if we did 10 individual duels with 4 categories in their rankings, that's 40 individual items that each of us would have to talk about. So that might be a lot, and if we want to cut it down to 6, but I kind of like the idea that might be the point of this episode, is that we can all, or you guys because like I just said, I have no knowledge of this stuff. You guys could think of all these duels, and we could whittle it down to like the best 6, or at least the first 6. Because if we have a big enough list, nothing's stopping us from doing a part 3, a part 4, a part 5.
Welcome to Knights of Vader presents The Endless Year of Duels.
Yes, this is just what the podcast becomes. Yep. It's the only way we'll ever get to all of them.
Knights of Vader Fort Year.
See, that's why we have to do this before Kenobi, because if there's any more that are added to it, because if they have a lightsaber battle in Kenobi, they're like, wait a minute, I'm changing my vote.
Okay, so I think a few have been referenced here and there, but maybe to start building a list before we set ourselves to like a 5 or a 10 or anything like that. I guess, Chris, would you like to bring up the results of our social media polls where we asked our audience about this?
Yeah, so we did put up a poll in the Facebook group to sort of see what the most active and engaged of the listeners in the Facebook group who put up with our annoying memes on a regular basis, what they thought were some of the best duels. And predictably, and perhaps rightfully so, the top of that list at the moment is Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi. A lot of people have like some polarizing thoughts about Return of the Jedi. As far as the original trilogy goes, it's definitely like the movie that is not 100% beloved of those 3. But it's pretty universally understood that is the most important duel in the sense of its sort of relevance to the plot, and it's like the culmination of a lot of character moments throughout the other movies. So I can understand why that's at the top, followed closely by Obi-Wan versus Anakin in Revenge of the Sith.
I think that's the lava one.
Yeah, that's the lava one.
Good job.
There's probably no one has a hot take that either of those shouldn't be in that position, I'm guessing.
I'm good.
Look at that. It's almost like when something's objectively true, people don't try and claim that it's like good, better, worse, bad. I have an opinion. No, like it doesn't matter. Like those are objective truths. Those 2 are really good. What surprised me is third on our listeners' votes for the Facebook poll is Yoda versus Palpatine from Revenge of the Sith. The only reason that stands out in my mind is because Palpatine throws a Senate booth at Yoda.
Oh, yeah. I hope it's the ET Senate booth.
Yeah, it may well have been. So I don't as the past that the votes sort of even out. So there's not much of a consensus beyond that. So I think the Yoda versus Palpatine is a bit of a fluke, and I see one of the votes on that was me, so I was obviously feeling like having fun that day. But I don't know if that really belongs there. So I think however many slots we have, Luke versus Vader in Return of the Jedi and Obi-Wan versus Anakin from Revenge of the Sith have to be in there. So I think those 2 places can be spoken for as a result of the listeners' votes on the Facebook group.
Well, this is a question I want to ask. This is something more doesn't have to be answered specifically right now, but just before the end of this episode ends. Is there any lightsaber duel or duels from any of the films that should be, I don't want to say disqualified, but just not in the nominations process? Is there anything that we deem, I don't want to say not worthy, but just something that doesn't qualify?
Anything from the new trilogy.
Thank you.
No, I'm disqualifying that. Like that is an overrule right there. Because the best lightsaber duel in the entire franchise happens in one of the sequel trilogy movies, but I won't get into it.
It happened in Last Jedi. It was where Rey and Kylo Ren went back to back against the Royal Guard.
That wasn't even what I was referencing, but I'll take it.
Spot on impression, by the way. You're welcome.
So I filled out a good chunk of the options in this poll when I posted it, and people added some classics like the Dark Helmet versus Lone Star, but I filled out like 12 of them, and then I posted it, and it was at that point that I realized that I forgot the sequel trilogy existed.
Boo.
Some things are right with the world.
Should I state something for the record right now? that like I will die on this hill. 100% die on this hill. We are including, just so next episode we are forced to discuss it, the Kylo Ren versus Ray duel on the Halcyon Galactic Star Cruiser. I will die on this hill because I want Chris to do almost like an NFL John Madden play-by-play of everything that he sees wrong with this. As the first live-action canon duel.
Okay, Zach, for the notes, what movie is that from?
It's not from any movie. It's called, for movie, I want you to put, and I quote, IRL.
Okay, there we go. And I'm putting down that you voted for it. There we go.
From a choreography standpoint, that duel has the most comparable thing that you guys might remember is when Alec Guinness fought Vader in A New Hope. It's probably most closest to that in terms of like dynamic things that happen.
Probably. It's comparable. Except there's no awkward moment where Alec Guinness bends down to pick up a dual prepared lightsaber.
Yeah, it's like that, only they both yell things at the audience and then run away through opposite doors at the end, rather than one of them being defeated.
Exactly.
Here's the problem. You're not doing it the John Madden way. It would be, well, see, if Kylo Ren keeps on getting more hits in than Ray, he's obviously going to win the fight.
Everyone should know, for the listeners at home, Zenger is drawing on the screen right now with a marker. Exactly. So that's why I'm letting you know right now. Like Zenger is literally just painting onto his camera. We don't know how this works.
And he's got his feed flipped so that we can read it. Yeah, it's good.
Exactly.
Yeah, and see if we go here, there's free chili dogs at this stand here. So we're gonna make our way there.
Well, okay, so we have some idea of the least controversial live action duels, but when you sort of announced this, Zach, you mentioned like you wanted people to toss out examples from some of the TV shows, the animated stuff too. If from anybody here, just because like I have no strong opinions about that, like what are, like if there was like a top 2 or 3 from like all of the animated shows, like what is coming to mind for you?
Well, for me, it's definitely pointed out that, I don't know, some Clone Wars series could be a good one. Could be the best animated thing in existence. Seems to keep creeping up. Maybe like it's a good show or something.
You're talking about Asajj versus Anakin. Is that on Yavin 4 or something? Isn't it something like that?
Yeah. Allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly.
That's very coincidental that they happen to be on that planet, but I'll allow it. Yeah, like why are they there? But I don't know. All right.
It's because the script told them to.
Thanks, pitch meeting, Zach.
In canon, are the like Masazi temples like ancient Sith artifacts, or is that only legends? Like I don't know.
That was just legends. Okay. I don't know if they've probably low key incorporated it back into canon, but I know that is very much a legends thing.
So what was that last one Zenger just threw out? Asajj versus...
Oh, I never said that was my pick.
That wasn't. I thought that was your pick.
Okay. It's his pick. Just pencil it.
Well, hold on. Grievous versus the
Shaggy and Friends.
Yeah, Shaggy and Friends.
That's how we're. Rob, please make note.
No,
it is Grievous versus Shaggy and Friends.
That's how I wrote it on the Facebook poll. So it only received 2 votes, and neither. I don't think Zenger is either one of those.
Well, no, because as somebody who is a judge for the finals, I feel like me voting in the regular voting would have swayed people's opinions because they would have been like, oh, Zinger's voting for this, I better go with him. Or I forgot to vote. Either one of those is definitely a thing.
That's a pretty strong pick, though. I feel like that's like a 10-minute duel, right?
Real quick, though, can I beg, though? Like, yes, that is it technically a duel? Because basically the same thing that's happening between Grievous versus Shaggy and Friends is also happening with Vader versus the Fleet Troopers. Like, it's pretty much a slaughter. There's not really it's very much a one-sided fight.
So?
Great rebuttal. So? You should just follow up with Yo Mama.
No Dooku versus Anakin and Obi-Wan, because that isn't much of a fight.
That's what I mean. So, like, this is where, the question comes into, like, are there certain ones that were just immediately disqualifying because they're not stimulating? Like, the argument can be made that in the Rise of Skywalker that like the 2, 3 Kylo Ren versus Ray fights really don't amount to much.
So wait, so by your logic, Finn versus the Traitor Trooper is not qualified?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking for the group here to define what we're thinking. Because, like, obviously, most people find the Attack of the Clones duel underwhelming between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Count Dooku.
Oh, no, I meant the one in Revenge of the Sith where they kill him.
They're both underwhelming. That's the point of all this.
Zach, the Revenge of the Sith one is clearly worse, and it was clearly designed. It was clearly designed to get Christopher Lee out of the picture because he was like not doing great at the time, and like he couldn't be in the whole movie. So I mean, and you know that opening duel from Revenge of the Sith is disqualified just because Palpatine thought he had to remind Anakin about the Sand People in case he forgot. In case he forgot about that horribly traumatizing life incident.
That happens after the duel, though. So
he's like, yeah, sure? But he's like, remember that time? It's like,
oh my God. Just in case the audience didn't get it the first time. That's rough. So that one's disqualified. I'm kind of torn on the Qui-Gon's first encounter with Darth Maul because I think it's like very cinematic and presented very nicely, but it doesn't amount to much except for. Well, it should have amounted to a lot because what you have is Qui-Gon experiences that fight. He tells Obi-Wan, like, that was crazy. I don't know what that was. He goes back to the Jedi Council and tells them, hey, you know, it might be the first Sith Lord in like 1,000 years. And they're just like, that's interesting. Let's carry on about our office duties today. So, you know, like but the choreography is cool. They just wanted to give you a little tease of what would be coming up later in the movie. But on paper, it's a relevant story moment because it's the first duel of a Jedi versus a Sith in like a millennia, according to Mace Windu. Kiadi.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot that he has dialogue.
Okay, but that's the thing though. So like I think this is one of those things too in the list of criteria with Rob is that duration. Like, is that going to be a metric? And how, like, for a nomination thing, it's the idea that, like, okay, some of this stuff doesn't last that long. So that's the question. This is where Rob is the outsider really kind of presents a very valuable opinion. I would
like to quickly make an argument for why duration is like a terrible metric.
Okay, proceed.
Episode 1, that duel is intercut with 2 other battles, and the same is true in Return of the Jedi. So they are artificially extended. So like, how are you measuring them? Just when they're on screen, or the whole time in the movie that they're taking place? And also, it's like not a super relevant metric in terms of like anything creative or like plot relevance or anything.
But I think it's duration also in combination with potency. Because I know at some point we will definitely talk about the Obi-Wan versus Maul duel in Rebels, which is a very, very, you can put your thumbs down all you want. It's very, very short in duration, but its potency is up there.
What about Anakin and the younglings?
That's up there with Darth Vader and the Fleet Troopers. It's up there.
Anakin and the Sand People. Or the Tusken Raiders.
Actually, Joe, I think that's absolutely...
The women and the children, too.
The younglings one is absolutely hilarious. How funny would it be for when our part 2 comes around, like all of us unanimously give that the top score for any lightsaber duel?
Well, actually, you can't say it's a duel because all he did was ignite it. So it was implied.
Here's the thing. As I do, I'm doing extensive research now on duels, which... shame on all of us for not realizing duel means 2, as in like 2 people dueling. So disqualify everything that is not 2 people or 2 entities.
Is it minimum 2 entities or maximum 2 entities?
Strike them.
Whoa. Is it minimum or maximum 2 entities?
A duel is an arranged engagement in combat between 2 people with matched weapons in accordance with agreed upon rules.
And started with a glove smack.
By definition, Zach, by definition.
Oh, wait, me. Why am I being singled out here?
By definition, 2 individuals matching weapons. So must both have lightsabers.
Well, okay, then doesn't Grievous versus Shaggy and friends count? Because then there are like 4 of them. He has 4 lightsabers.
2 people, Zach.
What's the sentience of a Grievous arm? That is the real question here.
Or like, does he have a like biological brain and a robot brain that work together?
Exactly. Is he a cyborg? What's the true definition of a cyborg? Rob, please
He's the
investigate.
Terminator, I always thought.
We could get by with that definition, but I think it would, it would limit some of the early part of the Qui-Gon Obi-Wan Maul fight, and
Then we should call this lightsaber fights.
that's a less cool word.
Exactly.
It is, but a more true statement.
Thank you, social media manager Chris Porteous.
Okay, so basically, I was like, remember a few minutes ago, I was like, so what are the best animated duels? So we got Shaggy and Friends versus Grievous from the whole totality of animated Star Wars. Shaggy and Friends versus Grievous. Rebels, Maul versus Obi-Wan.
Ahsoka versus Vader.
Sure, Ahsoka versus Vader.
Yeah.
from
Actually, yeah,
season
put
2.
that in.
Cool.
Rebels,
Well, can I please amend that and just because at the season 2 finale of Rebels, it's not just simply Ahsoka versus Vader. It's just season 2 finale of Rebels in general because you have what Kanan, Maul, and Ahsoka versus the 3 Inquisitors.
That would count as a duel.
Here's the thing, though.
It's 3-on-3 action. All they're missing is a ladder. That's good.
But there's 3 double-bladed
Dang, that's
lightsabers and 3 single-bladed lightsabers. So does that also? All right, Zenger, if we're gonna start getting into the nitty-gritty here.
No, because what I was about to say is, when Team 4-Star did their best Dragon Ball Z fights, team fights were allowed, but one team you can't switch out people. One person has to stay consistently fighting the entire time.
Can't be like a Pokemon battle.
Yeah, you can't switch one person has to stay fighting the entire way through. So technically Ahsoka versus Vader is Ahsoka versus Vader, though that other one is a separate fight.
But there's lightsaber helicopters. Where's that?
That's a separate fight.
For sure, that's a separate fight.
Okay, yeah, that's what I mean. But it's the idea that just season 2 of Rebels is kind of just overstuffed with this sort of stuff.
For example, technically, it would be Dooku versus Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin would technically be the fight. Because one party stays through the entire fight.
Disagree.
I'm going to have to say no.
If we go by certain rules.
You will know that the duel ends when he sits there and he has them on the floor.
Yeah,
and then Yoda
exactly.
comes strutting out, hobbling out, and then does these amazing acrobatics you had never seen before.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Zenger,
dude
John
has a
Knoll
cane.
disagrees with you. Yeah,
Dude has
Well,
a cane.
okay, I am going to state this. Andrew Jackson, if he was able to lightsaber duel, how many people would he have fought? Because I am going to look up how many people he fought in history, which it's going to be a staggering number. I guarantee it. That's my side mission on this episode.
Okay, so while Zenger hopefully spends an hour researching that.
All right, real quick. Okay, I'm going to take the reins of this for a second. All right, I would imagine, going through every duel in every Star Wars film in chronological order, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, do we want to add the Qui-Gon versus Maul fight on Tatooine to the list, yes or no? I'm going to say no.
I qualify that as an encounter.
Okay, so you're going to say no.
Yes.
I'm going to say no just because we're working with, Rob, 6 or 8 slots here? What are we talking about for a total number?
We'll figure that out later. We can always whittle it down. The job now is keep whittling down. So we're going to say that's a no, right?
Yeah.
Joe Yado, yes or no?
No.
All right, Rob, just out of curiosity, we're not going to count you officially, but what do you think is the outsider looking in?
Oh, is that the fight where baby Anakin has to duck? Is that thing?
Yes.
Okay. No, I would never ever have considered that a duel.
Okay. All right. I would imagine then we would all include the Duel of the Fates.
Oh, of course.
Chris is just nodding. Joe Yazzo, I assume you're a yes?
That's a good one.
Just for the score alone. You have to say that. Yeah, just for the music.
Rob, I can't imagine you would disagree or argue against that.
No, that's a good one. Yeah. That's just Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Maul, right? There's nobody else in that? Okay. Gotcha. Yep.
Okay. So going now to Attack the Clones. Part 1, we're going to divide these by 2. Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Count Doku.
No.
Going around the room. Joe Yazzo, yes or no?
Can be a battle, but it's not on the list.
All right, so we're excluding it from the it's being denied a nomination.
I wouldn't put it on a nomination.
Okay, Chris Porteous, denying it or yay or nay on nomination?
I'm denying it just because there's too much interesting stuff, but it does get honorable mention from a production standpoint in my book because it's the first instance of a practical lit lightsaber designed to create lighting interaction on the actors' faces.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Grand Admiral Zenger.
Nay.
Nay. All right, Rob, outsider looking in, how would you look at this?
That's the movie I remember the least.
As you should.
And
this is where Anakin loses his arm for the first time.
Yeah, I would say
First time. Nice clarification there for the first time.
Yeah, I would say no to that one as well. Yep.
Okay. All right.
But a good side note, though, for that, it reminded me of Masters of the Universe when He-Man was fighting Skeletor when they were doing that because there was no light whatsoever. And the only thing lit was what they were doing.
Yeah, and now they always use LED cosplayer lightsabers to film new Star Wars shows.
Exactly.
So trend established.
Just to point out the question I asked myself several moments ago, Andrew Jackson participated in a range of 5 to possibly over 100 duels in his lifetime.
What?
Exactly.
Why did you
Boys and girls,
want to
that's
bring this
one
up?
thing that you didn't know that you have to do.
Zenger, are you saying
Thank
that
you.
he only dueled once in his life and duels never ended between them? Like, what are you saying?
No, he somewhere participated in anywhere from 5 to 100.
I'm not gonna
This
put
guy
that in
loved
the
to
minutes. Okay,
duel.
I'm not writing that down.
But okay, by the way, this wasn't with like swords. These were guns, like old-timey, all in freaking mortar, freaking shooting each other at like 20 paces.
Zenger's like, back in the good old days, we used to shoot glorified marbles at each other.
Yeah.
Also, I'm pretty sure he did some of these while he was president.
Okay, we'll give him an honorable mention. How about that?
No,
Once
I
it's
just
all over.
want people to know some kind of relative fact to actual reality while we talk about our fictional sword fights.
Oh my god, this is the weirdest tangent. All right, moving on. Yoda versus Dooku. All right,
Too many flips.
Joe Yazzo.
I would say I would put it on the list, but it's absolutely absurd. But yeah, I would say, yeah, you could put
It's
it
a
on the
yes
list.
from Joe Yazzo. Chris.
That's a yes for what John Knoll refers to as the Wizards Duel. Good stuff.
Okay. All right, Zenger.
Gonna go with sure.
All right, I'm going to say no because it's a less interesting version of the Revenge of the Sith one, but I've been overruled. Rob, outsider looking in.
I actually would say yes to that one for the sole reason that I remember that being the biggest deal to see Yoda fight for me as a kid when I was 10 or something, 9,
All right, just a small editor's note. I remember that too back in the day being the big talking point. Then and even now, I think the beginning of the Clone Wars is by far more interesting than that duel.
Okay. Oh, hold on. But one more honorable mention about that duel. Imagine if they made a trailer for episode 9 where they purposely edited it to appear like an MCU movie. There's a trailer showing that scene that has Spider-Man graphics.
Yeah, I remember that. I love that trailer.
Ridiculous.
Lucasfilm tried, or maybe not even Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox. Because I think it was 20th Century Fox that did the marketing for that film. Oh yeah, I remember that on the DVD. Take the ultimate spin. That was the tagline. And it had the weird same color scheme as the 2002 Spider-Man film.
Yeah, it's just something they would never try today. I mean, maybe that's a good thing, but that was an interesting trailer.
And again, I can still remember in the spring of 2002, reading Starlog and all those other entertainment magazine periodicals, and the big thing was oh man, we're getting a new Star Wars movie in a month or two, but there is no hype around it compared to Spider-Man. And I can still remember arguing with kids in 4th grade that yeah, Spider-Man's lame. Go see Star Wars. I can still remember doing that in 2002. Go listen to the Cinemoddities episode. We talked about that for 4.5 hours. Yeah, it was Rob laughs. All right, moving on to Revenge of the Tishi. All right, first duel, Obi-Wan Anakin versus Dooku. Thoughts?
Boring.
Boring. That's going to be a no from Zenger. Chris?
Really rough. I'm going to say no.
I'm glad you're consistent, Chris, because you already said no to that earlier, and I had that down. Joe?
No.
I'm going to say no, too, but I do like the fact that we get to see somebody's hands get taken off. Probably in Empire Strikes Back, we don't get a clear close-up of that. Gotta give credit where credit is due. Rob, is that considered dismemberment to a degree, or?
Yeah, I would think so. I'm also trying to remember all this stuff. Is that the same fight where stairs fall on Ewan McGregor and Palpatine's like, just leave them, and Anakin's like, I can move stairs like they're nothing, you know? Like, why would I leave them here?
His fate will be the same as ours.
It should also be noted that, is it the second decapitation in Star Wars history?
I'm pretty sure Anakin pretty clearly cuts off a Tusken Raider's head when he goes crazy.
Oh, does he? Okay, so it's the third decapitation in Star Wars history. Correction. All right, we're making the big highlights here.
I would like to honorably mention Ewan McGregor versus the stairs in that fight. I remember that scene being funny.
So according to Oxford, the action of cutting off a
Andrew
person
Jackson's
or animal's
name
limb
was Andrew Jackson. Oxford has 30 to 120 duels.
His horse was named Buxton.
That is a fun fact. But are your hands limbs?
Yes. I would say yes.
I wasn't prepared for that question.
Okay, I need to do more research.
If you sever more than one body part, it would be considered dismemberment. And two hands would consist of actually 2 hands and a head. 2 hands and a head. All right, you're making identifying that body extremely difficult.
I feel like we need a lawyer present on this episode to dissect the semantics of all this.
Well, I just love how we're slowly becoming a true crime podcast with our description of dismemberment.
All right, Chris, put that in the tags when you sit there post this episode. True crime. Download Skyrocket overnight.
The deadliest crimes in a galaxy far, far away.
Oh my god.
Ooh, that would be an interesting episode.
I know.
Okay, so after this, the next duel we have is Grievous versus Obi-Wan, correct?
Yeah.
I feel like Chris feels like he's about to challenge this. Like Chris
also, hands and feet are considered appendages.
Zenger's gonna just die on this hill.
And so are fingers. So when I cut one finger off, if I cut 2, I would be considered dismembered.
But arms and legs are not considered extremity? Where the crap is this coming from?
The crap.
You went into the dark corner of the web, my friend.
Oh, we're getting there.
All right, so going to Obi-Wan versus Grievous on Udapal. All right, we're going to begin. I feel like Zenger is just a jerk right now, so we're going to begin with him. Obi-Wan versus Grievous.
Does Obi-Wan cutting off Grievous's hands count as more dismemberment?
Yes.
All right, fair enough.
Actually, no, because he's a robot and he doesn't have feelings.
And robots aren't people, right, Rob? So you can't dismember a robot.
In our world, but what about on Ukapi or whatever you just said, planet name you said, Zach? What if that changes everything?
Well, Rob, does a cyborg count as a person?
Oh, God.
Rob, remember there are currently cyborgs that are people. So settle down.
Then maybe
that
I
was
should.
The strangest caveat
Maybe
ever.
I should plead the fifth then.
Rob, are people with cybernetic enhancements count as people?
Okay, now, Chris, thank you for letting me down this road. No, everybody out there with a pacemaker, you're not a person.
So that's not murder then. That is not legally murder.
Good God.
It's property damage.
This is true.
Yes. We're in the world of repo men. Yep.
Yes. It's property damage because they're damaging their artificial. That's his property.
May I say property dismemberment? You know.
Yes. Destruction of property.
All right. Zenger, Obi-Wan versus Grievous. Yes or no?
Yay. Just so I can definitely get another Grievous on this list.
All right, the Porteous with the Mortius.
I like it. All the Udapal stuff is cool. Highly underrated planet. There should be more aliens in current canon from there, and I wish that we would see more of those.
Definitely none of those in the upcoming TV series Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, none. I would know if I saw one, Zach. Okay, but it's a good duel, and it's probably the second most quoted duel by filthy casuals out there. Although that's not really for a great reason. The duel's good. That quote's like whatever. It's Alec Guinness quote actually, but people like to say hello there all the time, including the first tweet by Lucasfilm of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show's Twitter account was just hello there. Weird. But that's a very dynamic duel that has a lot of groundbreaking, crazy, expensive animation for the time, and it's a very interesting environment. And they basically run around through half of the city and have like a motorcycle chase while still having a duel, and then it finishes up without lightsabers. But a lot of interesting stuff happens there, so that's a yes from me.
All right, I once said that I'm not, again, I like how it begins, it kind of peters out, but I do like the fact that somewhere during this, like Chris said, like there's basically like a motorbike chase through the city. I like how Obi-Wan's attempted finishing move is to throw basically like a tree limb into like Grievous's bicycle spoke. Like I kind of like that. The idea he has like a stick and he wants to throw it in there. I find that amusing. I probably... The beginning of it starts strong. Again, like I said, it peters out. So I'm tempted to say no, but I have a feeling Mr. Yazzo is going to overrule me.
I'm going to say no.
Really? You're going to say no?
Yes.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm going to say no too. So Rob, you are going to be tiebreaker in this one.
Even before...
Unless somebody can get Russ on the horn right now.
Yeah, he would have more.
Give me a second.
Before I heard your answers, I was going to put that in the yes column for me.
Okay, so that's 3-2. All right, so Rob, as the tiebreaker, are you going to put that into the nominations?
I'm going to put it into the nominations right now, but I'm going to say that we were main hosts were split. How about that?
Okay, we'll take that. I'll take that.
And this will, of course, come up because
asterisk.
with everything we've been saying, not just when you've put some structure to the Zach, that is the 12th entry on the list.
I've got a lot left.
Yes.
I know. All right, after this, we have Mace Windex and Friends versus Palpy.
That wouldn't constitute as a duel. That's like a massacre.
There's sticks smacking each other.
I would say that would be in line with the Rebel Troopers and Darth Vader and Anakin with the Sand People and the Younglings. And
there is dismemberment though.
Well, yeah, that qualifies for a duel every time. There is also the thing brought up though is, did Palpatine purposely not win that fight so that he could turn Anakin? Because then we're going to get into that whole discussion.
So we're saying from the moment Mace Windu barges into the office until he gets shot out of a window later on, that's the duel. That's a pretty good chunk of time.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, because Anakin was like at a different office downtown or something, and he had time to get down there before the duel was even over.
He could have left at the same time. We're taking a lot of liberties with time.
Well,
right
I mean,
now.
It has to qualify because it's very interesting, and I think that the most fun part about that duel is probably because it's like it's a classic production George Lucas moment where Ian McDiarmid was told he was not going to do a whole lot. He showed up to work that day ready to just like put up his lightning fingers and like barely work. And Lucas told him on set when he showed up that he's going to in fact be having a lightsaber duel, which he will have to actually participate in without a stunt double for some shots. So he learned that when he showed up for work that day because Lucas either didn't feel like telling him or made it up that day. So that's awesome. And also when he makes a mutant devil noise and like does a spiral jump at them when they open the door, like that's all-time greatest moments in cinematic history. So
that I kind of feel like the actual choreography is extremely lacking, but the fact that like we get like I have to again. You gotta give credit where credit is due with Palpy,
Do
the
you
greatest
have to?
character in Star Wars history. That like we actually have a duel that begins with a like we have to give credit where credit is due. There, like how many lightsaber duels begin with a war cry?
At least 5.
So like that feels like a shoo-in.
And I mean, when you judge the choreography, like it was made up that day on the spot. Like poor Nick Gillard had to like figure that out when Lucas was just like, yeah, you know what? Actually, Palpatine's gonna fight all 4 of these guys like right now.
Exactly. He's gonna take 3 of them out instantaneously.
That was a lot of great choreography right there. Okay, kill that one, and yeah, we'll figure out the rest afterwards. Also, a lightsaber breaks glass.
Why wouldn't it?
It would cut through it. It wouldn't shatter it.
The correct answer to all questions in life are why wouldn't it?
Okay, so bigger, stupider question: are all the windows on Coruscant actually glass? Because like, what's the deal with that like assassin robot Jango Fett tried to use? Like, it just like lasers open the blinds. Like, is that glass? Like, what's happening there?
These are all questions nobody needs the answer to.
So what I'm going with is that it was a cold night, and below a certain temperature, a lightsaber will break an entire window if it touches it.
Or one of them hit
Do we
the
know
hilt.
what the climate is on Coruscant?
Due to the incredible originality of it having a 24-hour day-night cycle, I would say that it's Earth comparable.
Okay.
Also due to the pollution.
You know, it has no atmosphere. Like it has no trees to support an atmosphere.
Neither does Tatooine.
No, they have underground trees. That was established.
They also have little like water balloons that like grow underground.
Duh.
You know, if you had read the illustrated Star Wars universe in 1996, Zach, you would know that there's a atmosphere processing plant on the poles of Coruscant that pull.
Really?
Yeah, you know, it's a big deal. There's paintings of it. It's a good time.
Of course there
Yeah.
are.
I don't think anybody's voted on whether they want to include or disclude Mace Windu and Friends versus Palpatine.
I have.
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes, just for like the weird like, oh god, war cry.
And you know, if you were told that you had to make up like an amazing grade A duel like on the spot, what you'd probably do is find a way to get rid of 3 of the 4 combatants like within 2 seconds, so you could think at least for the remaining day and get your job done.
I'm gonna go with yes on Zach's argument alone of the war cry.
That again, that sound is just nothing but like. Has there ever been like? I know recently Disney Plus has released like an entire like quasi sub series on like the sounds of Star Wars. Is there one on Ben Burt just like discovering that sound?
You know, it's probably just sampled from when the Ark of the Covenant opens.
Oh, that in like Jurassic Park dinosaurs.
Yeah, some combination of the two. You know, yeah, you know, it's a shame, and I mean, we'll get down there, but it's a shame that they purposely didn't watch those when, you know, designing the sequel trilogy, because they would have probably given Palpatine like a little more of an epic like intro, like when he shows up later on. You know, he's just basically loafing around.
Hey! Don't you dare insult Palpatine in the sequel trilogy. Don't you dare insult Monster Mash sitting on his little like. Oh god, what's it called? The omnibus from like what, Assassin's Creed?
Oh, the Animus, yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to do like a Dracula like spiral dive with a dinosaur noise while you're attached to a big robotic arm. It's tough.
Exactly. Don't you dare insult the most unintentionally brilliant Star Wars film ever.
I don't know, Chris. Have you seen Assassin's Creed? He does some crazy stuff on that thing. Okay, I think Joe, you're the one.
The game or all the above?
The movie, Justin.
Oh, perfect.
I even called you Justin
What?
there. You like that? I was
Yeah.
hurt with you. I think, Joe, you're the only one left. What do you think about Palpatine versus Windu?
No.
Okay. I think I'm going to say yes, though, so that keeps it on there for now, at least.
Okay. All right, moving on. Okay, we're going to technically delve into this in chronological order. Anakin versus Obi-Wan. I cannot imagine any of us would disagree on this.
That's already on the list.
Chronological order.
It begins. It technically that lightsaber is ignited before Yoda and Palpy's.
Are you sure?
Yes, 100%. I bet my life.
Why am I thinking that's way
As Rob
earlier?
puts his head down.
No, Joe hit the nail on the head when he was like, "We have a lot left to go through," and Zenger's like, "I swear I need a frame count, Mr. Jackson. Who pulled out their gun first?" You know,
Zenger, remember how much time Yoda spent in Palpatine's office, like just talking smack before they started doing anything?
No, what happens is you have Anakin and Obi-Wan like bickering with each other over semantics. And then, like, Obi-Wan's like, I will do what I must. Anakin will say, you will try. Obi-Wan ignites his lightsaber, technically provoking the interaction, if you want to break it down that way. Obi-Wan instigates this.
Once
and
again, there's so much legal jargon we're throwing around right now.
Obi-Wan technically instigates the Mustafar duel. Anakin is not the aggressor there.
And you're willing to use this in
Anakin's
court.
entire interaction on Mustafar is in self-defense. Like, any criminal defense attorney would be like, yeah, this guy like brought it upon himself. Obi-Wan should be in jail right now.
I don't know. When the cops catch up to somebody who's already killed like 40 children, like, I don't know how they react.
Doesn't matter. Still self-defense.
I understand the points you guys are making, but is there a reason as to which one starts first would influence whether or not we rank it?
All right. The point being is that does anybody here want to put up any sort of argument as to why the Anakin versus Obi-Wan duel on Mustafar should not be included?
But it already is included.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was because of the
All right.
fan poll. It's
Yes.
included.
It doesn't matter. The fans, which has been, Zenger can tell you since the get-go, disenfranchising the listener has been a hallmark of this podcast.
It's the only reason I exist on here.
All right, Yoda versus Palpatine. Once again, I cannot imagine anybody having any sort of argument against this. Like, even though it's included in the fans' choice poll, you can still be like, okay, this is why I don't believe it should be included. Not saying it will be disqualified, but it's at least like some form of a dissenting argument.
I don't think you're going to get that from anybody. It's important for
Okay.
a lot of reasons. You know, it's why Yoda has a healthy respect for.
Wow,
Palpatine's
you are
power.
correct, Zach.
Thank you, Zenger. Zenger in real time breaks down what minute and second does this occur?
Okay, because I was gonna go with because I for some reason thought they ignited their light, like they didn't actually fight or didn't start, but the first touch of lightsabers.
We should technically do Yoda versus the Emperor's Royal Guards, because what is technically a duel?
The
Like, you force pull them
first-
back into a wall.
The first strike is at 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 58 seconds.
That's uber nerd right there.
Is the first time their lightsabers touch in battle.
Internet is a bad thing.
It is.
All right, moving on from Revenge of the Sith, we have A New Hope. Do we want to give a honorable mention to Scene 1138 Reimagined?
Yes, we do.
Yes, an honorable mention as in a cancer on the Star Wars universe and the sole reason why we're getting a Kenobi series.
Yeah.
Moving on. All right, Obi-Wan versus Vader. Thoughts?
Yay. It's
Yay or
yay.
nay?
It has to be in there. It's the first time we actually see a lightsaber duel in order of watching.
Yeah, and also like instantly disappearing into the Force and proceeding to immediately communicate with your still alive allies is a pretty overpowered move.
Yeah. It's a legacy pick.
I like that. I like that.
It's nostalgic
I-
right there. It doesn't. That is the one that all others have came from. So if this was a computer program, this would be the parent class, and all of the rest of these is the child class.
I agree with
So
that.
that is the one thing. It gets better from this because these elements are used in all of them. The taunting, the nice little back and forth.
The
It has
Senate
evolved.
seats in Revenge of the Sith, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and Joe, to your point, not to mention the sound effect that was haphazardly invented like 50 years ago, which is still carrying and getting people excited for just because it's a sound of like, what was it like? It's like a refrigerator vent or something stupid. Like that's good stuff. But I don't know how much we're supposed to be drawing from the production and cultural relevance of this sort of stuff. But for me, that duel, the most interesting thing about it is how it ends. Just the visual of him poofing into nothing, and then Vader like stamping out his cape as like that's good stuff. That's it's very iconic. Yeah,
he's gonna check his shit.
Yeah, like I don't know what he was hoping to check was not in there, but yeah, it's interesting.
We can only hope that in the Kenobi series, how Obi-Wan escapes Vader's wrath is like he does some sort of version of a parlor trick and just throws down some like smoke grenades. And Vader's like, if only I would have stomped the cape, I would have known he was dead.
I'll be honest with you. You know what it is? Why he stomps his robe is he wants his lightsaber back.
Oh.
He's like, I know it's in here.
So,
Sound effects right there.
Fantastic Foley effect right there.
Thank you.
Whoever edits this, please make sure that you amplify that.
By the way, 1 hour, 50 minutes, 46 seconds is the first time the lightsabers clash between Palpatine and Yoda.
I like how we're still going back to this thing we all agreed upon unanimously. I'm glad that we're going back to this.
I am not counting the build-up. It has to be sabers touching.
I thought he was trying to talk about my great little thing that I just did was at 50 minutes. But
you have to realize Zenger's usually 2 or 3 steps behind the curve when it comes to this sort of thing. Like Zenger's like
or 4 or 5 steps ahead.
Fact checking us something that we all agreed upon moments ago.
Yeah, he will be the most annoyed when we're still not through episode 6 in like an hour.
All right, so it's just for the sake the case of brevity. Is there any lightsaber interaction in the original trilogy that anybody has any strong feelings about not including? Like, I would imagine no one's going to argue with Vader versus Luke or Vader versus Luke.
I think Luke on the sail barge.
Keep it ambiguous.
I think Luke on the sail barge is in a duel.
Is it now? Like,
no.
Does he technically murder anybody? Because at one point he just kind of like waves his lightsaber at somebody and they go diving off the side of the sail barge.
No, he sliced someone open. You heard that too. It was like, ooh, he cut him open like some halibut.
Are we sure about that?
Yes.
Like, Zenger
I'll be back in a second.
Zenger's gonna fact check.
Get a Zinger replay on that. Come on.
Is Lando versus the Sarlacc pit considered a duel?
You guys are missing the only logical contestable choice, which is obviously the Vision fight against Vader in the cave on Dagobah. Now, that is the only shoehorned in. We need an extra lightsaber duel in this movie fight in the whole original trilogy. But I think it's worthy just because of the context around it, and it's a slow motion duel in 1980, which is weird, and obviously you know what, there's another decapitation, although it's a Vision, so I guess it doesn't count. Well, hold on a second. I'm going to make an argument in Chris's favor. Is there any other instance in Star Wars where we have an illusion that's a duel?
Yes.
For hallucination?
Yes. Why are you not remembering this? Rey versus Evil Rey.
No, that wasn't a duel.
Zenger's right. Technically, Zenger is right. The best kind of correct.
No, I just like how Joe basically just said, like, that's not a duel, that was a travesty, you know?
Yes.
No, so Joe, are you talking about the Wilhelm scream hit?
What?
He's back to the sail barge thing. Why are we starting him with this?
Where he sliced them up.
Don't play into his shtick, Joe.
He took an uppercut with the lightsaber on this guy, and you could actually hear him cut the person open.
All right.
Like, ah! It was right when he got it.
All right. So, okay, we haven't answered the question though. Does a hallucination count as a duel?
Yes, because you're dueling against your psyche. So yes, I will allow it.
All right, Chris. Thoughts? Are we going to count the Vader versus Luke in the cave on Dagobah?
No, he's just waving that thing around like a goddamn lunatic. He's cut down nobody when he first gets it.
I told you, he's just waving at people and they're diving off the side of a glorified RV.
The first person he gets falls off. The second person, Wilhelm screams.
Yes, that's the one that you would actually hear him cut him open.
Yeah, but Wilhelm screamed, so he didn't hit the any of the lungs or anything.
Doesn't matter. He tauntauned him.
You know what, Joe? That you're probably right. That is the exact same noise from when the tauntaun gets cut open. It's pretty close.
Exactly.
But that's the birth of the Force Unleashed sort of baseball bat lightsaber physics, because they realized it would be far too violent if Luke was actually just like slicing those guys to pieces on the barge. Because later on they have Ewoks in that movie.
Well, they could have shields like the people in Boba Fett had.
Yeah, that's not a duel. So, I'm going to count the visions because
Is the Rancor, Boba Fett riding a Rancor count as a duel?
I think the duel is Baby Yoda versus the Rancor, Zack.
There you go.
Boba Fett on a Rancor is considered a vision. It's a fever dream.
I wish it were.
The spice stream.
That's what happened. He sat there and he OD'd on spice. He's like, I'm going to ride a Rancor.
Let's analyze that contrast for a moment. Boba Fett thought that just seeing a Star Destroyer was a hallucination. Five minutes later, he's riding a Rancor through a town while being shot at by destroyer droids.
Now that we're 2 months plus removed from the Book of Boba Fett, can we please just like I don't know, Rob, please help me here. I don't want to say appreciate, but just maybe revel in the absurdity that is the Book of Boba Fett. This is a thing that Lucasfilm made that almost feels like on a whim. And it's weird to think that this exists.
It's like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's in the same place. It's in a desert.
I still think I've only seen 2 or 3 episodes of that show.
That's what I mean. But okay, Chris, maybe you can help me here. Is the Book of Boba Fett the most Lucasfilm has shot from the hip since they were purchased by Disney?
When I think of the Book of Boba Fett, I think of what a hard time it was to get the original Star Wars made, and how Alan Ladd Jr. just pleading with Fox not to cancel it, and then these guys didn't have to justify all of these absurd decisions to make this show. Are you kidding me? It's just laughable in every way, shape, or form. I don't like hardly any of it. I can't fathom that a Boba Fett show came out and that's what it was. I don't revel in the absurdity of it. It bothers me deeply.
It seemed like it was a checklist show. They said they came there with a couple of ideas, and they had that dirty old notebook that they've had for years. And they're like, "We know what we're going to do. We're going to have someone ride a Rancor in live action." And they're going to say, "Oh, we did that, check." And we're going to have another train fight, check. We're going to have him riding a bantha, check. We're going to have him getting out of Sarlacc, check. We got to get him to get his shit back, check. And that's what they were doing. They were just checking the boxes on the stuff that they already did.
So they ran out of things to check off, Joe, and they just started plugging in not Boba Fett.
That's inappropriate, Zach. You can't say that.
Not Boba Fett?
Rob guts it.
Although it did have a old-timey pistol duel, which is Zinger's favorite thing.
Are you telling me Andrew Jackson, his horse Buxton, was in the Book of Boba Fett?
That was a duel in a very real sense. It was a duel.
Are we going to count Cobb Vanth versus Cad Bane as a duel?
No, it's not. There's no lightsaber. I mean, yes. And also you get Boba Fett versus Cad Bane.
All right, real quick. Impromptu. Okay, we have our dark horse here. Are we going to count Cobb Vanth versus Cad Bane? Is that the first actual duel in Star Wars? No?
Han and Guido.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Han did not shoot first.
All right. Are we going to do special editions or OG?
Oh my God. You hurt me. You damaged me. Oh.
Han shot first and always shoots first.
Oh.
I love the fact that Disney agrees that Han shot first, but they're not allowed to re-edit the movie that way.
Okay.
Is Luke versus Vader from Return of the Jedi a one we've already discussed, the only one we have left to discuss from episode 6?
That's already on the list, too.
We never agreed on whether hallucinations count as duels.
I heard 3 people speak positively of it. That's enough for me at this point.
If they didn't, how could we talk about Yoda fighting evil Yoda?
Ooh.
What?
Isn't that a vision when Yoda fights evil Mirror Universe Yoda.
He has a goatee and everything. He sits there and...
Oh, God. All right. So moving to everybody's favorite film sub-series of all time, the sequel trilogy. All right. In The Force Awakens, we have, we have a couple of interactions. We have Finn versus the baton-wielding stormtrooper. Yes or no? Going around the room, Joe Yazzo.
My answer for all of these is no.
Okay, for everything of The Force Awakens or the sequel trilogy?
The sequel trilogy.
Okay, so we have a hard no across the board. All right.
Don't need to ask me. It's just, Joe says no. I'm going to get a sign. I'm going to be like Wile E. Coyote. I'm just going to put it up and be like, no. So I don't even have to. Let me write it.
All right, we're gonna save Chris for last. I can imagine Chris has the most complex opinion on any of these. Zenger, what do you think about? Oh God, I would say anything from The Force Awakens duel wise, whether it be Finn versus the Stormtrooper, Finn versus Kylo Ren, or Ray versus Kylo Ren.
I'm going to say Andrew Jackson was the first president to have an assassination attempt made on him. Richard Lawrence had 2 pistols, both of them misfiring. President Jackson proceeded to beat the living crap out of Lawrence with his cane. He was pulled off by his security, and the odds of both guns misfiring is over 150,000 to 1. I have no interest in any of the sequel trilogy crap.
Is the baton-wielding stormtrooper the traitor scene?
Yes.
Okay, that's a hard no from me. That's a hard no from me.
He does what? He does get shot by Han Solo wielding a Chewbacca's crossbow.
I think that makes it a harder no from me.
All right, Chris. I can't imagine you'll be the saving grace here.
This is up there as far as like my favorite duels in the sequel trilogy because it features someone wielding a lightsaber who doesn't know what it is or how it works, which is always fun. And you get a use of some sort of electric weapon that can repel lightsabers, which are always good, like Grievous's honor guard. Those guys are fun. The Purge Troopers have the same stick, I think. That's cool.
Electro staff.
Yeah, like it's interesting because that in this, especially like this early in The Force Awakens, like it kind of felt like the plot still had stakes and things mattered. It feels like there's something that could still be lost here. Like, you know, Finn had an interesting story that was like kind of deep that like got ejected into the outer space like 5 minutes later. But like, you know, there's something that feels actually choreographed and like weighty about this duel that's sort of interesting. Like the lightsaber feels real in some level when he's fighting this hammer, even though he turns it on with the wrong button, which is a famous thing that was memed. But yeah. But you know what though? Like when I was watching this in the theater, I was actually engaged as an audience member. So I'm gonna say yes because I don't have much to say about the rest of the sequel trilogy. It's a fun one. It stands out.
Okay. All right. I'm kind of shocked at that. But are we going to continue into Finn versus Kylo Ren and Ray versus Kylo Ren? Joe is a no. Zenger, what is your opinion on Kylo Ren versus Ray? Then Kylo Ren versus Finn, and then Kylo Ren versus Ray.
I mean, it happened. It's not something I consider interesting.
Okay. So you acknowledge its existence, but you do not acknowledge its entertainment value.
Andrew Jackson had a pet parrot that offended.
Joe's just furiously nodding right now. Furiously nodding. Like he did, for the listeners at home, he did hold up a Wile E. Coyote sign that said no to the camera at one point. Like he did make that. I want everyone to know that wasn't just...
It was inverted because the camera's flipped, so I have to work on that.
Yes.
Joe went and got a mirror right now, and he's holding it up to the sign so we can see it correctly.
Just to point out, Jackson's pet parrot attended his funeral service in 1845.
Buxton
but was
Jr.?
removed after it used too much foul language.
Who was the parrot will to?
I don't. The American people.
To his mistress, Ginny.
Oh God! All right, so okay, clearly no one's taking this serious anymore as we devolve into delirium.
Like, you need to move on to the next one.
No, Chris. What does Chris think of Finn versus Kylo Ren and Rey versus Kylo Ren?
Oh, he's gonna agree with you because it's Chris.
I didn't state my opinion.
They sort of blur together to me. I haven't seen this in a long time. When I last tried to watch it, I did get to the traitor fight, but I didn't get all the way to this. So, but I remember like I was sort of along for the ride when I first watched this in the theater, and I think the moment that really reminded me the gravity of the situation was when the earthquake sort of split the ground between the two, and that's how we're ending the fight here. Like the earthquake's literally going to make a line between the two of them, and that's the level of environmental coincidence that's going to allow this duel to end with neither of them being horribly injured in any way, shape, or form. Joe, you got something, Joe?
Yeah, I do. It took Han 30 plus years to shoot Chewbacca's crossbow.
Joe, we all know that Han Solo doesn't exist unless we're watching him, so he didn't have many opportunities to try it out.
But I'm just like, wow. It's like he doesn't... That's not a co-pilot. That's not his best friend. That's like his pet. He's like, wow, you got a really decent weapon here, Chewie. Good job. I'll give you some Wookiee biscuits when we get back to the Falcon. Oh, good boy. Yeah. Scratches him behind the ear. He sits there and his legs start shaking.
He's literally like, why didn't you tell me this was so good?
I know. It's just like...
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't remember that duel. I remember my distaste for the sequel trilogy started with that earthquake separating the two on screen.
That speaks volumes to that right there, because you want to know something? If it was something that he has omitted from his mind and caused him such trauma that he cannot remember it, then that's the whole sequel trilogy. So it's
all right. Okay. To bounce off that,
it gets a little better from there.
Okay. All right. To bounce off of that, as somebody who is cursed to remember The Force Awakens for better or worse, I will say that the Finn versus Kylo Ren duel is kind of interesting. The idea of somebody
which I'm watching now.
Good job. As somebody who is an experienced Force user versus a complete novice is kind of an interesting concept that we've never seen before, even though it is, albeit extremely brief. I find that interesting as a concept. I don't know if it works in execution, but as a concept, I will give them brownie points for that. I think it becomes inherently less interesting the moment after Rey force pulls the lightsaber, because even though everybody at the time thought it was going to be Luke Skywalker that would show up to save them, because Rey is, before the Finn Kylo Ren duel, incapacitated, so it really makes no sense that she's the one that force pulls it, because it is, oh God, evident to the audience that she is removed from the fight so early on, and there's no really anything that alludes to the fact that she gets force slammed into a tree at like 10 feet in the air and falls down, yet somehow all of a sudden
20.
Exactly. No, I do think there is, to the Finn, Kylo Ren, and Rey's entrance, there is some merit there, but as Chris can probably tell you, the Kylo Ren versus Ray duel is just twirling after that. They just twirl back and forth with each other, and nothing really happens until, oh God, I remember even at the time in 2015, people couldn't tell if Kylo Ren's lightsaber was destroyed in that fight. Because I know there is a point where you see something like go flying into the air and people were like, well, is the lightsaber destroyed? I'm going to say yes, just because it's something slightly different than what we've seen before. So where are we at, Rob? We have 2 and 2? Like, weirdly, we're going to give Chris a yay on that?
Yeah,
or?
but I think it's I really don't remember the end of that movie.
Rob has seen the sequel trilogy like half a time.
Yeah, basically. I'll put down on the Finn. I think the one we're more split on is the Finn and Kylo Ren one. I'll put that down with the same caveat or note that you guys were split on it. We can come back to, for sure.
All right. The greatest Star Wars film to ever exist in the history of mankind, The Last Jedi.
The holiday special.
All right. I would imagine, does anybody... Okay, I'm kind of curious, less about Zenger and more about Joe and Chris. Is there any reason to disqualify Kylo Ren and Ray versus the Praetorian Guard?
Nope, it is the standout, duel with an asterisk of the entire sequel trilogy.
Yeah, I'll give
Joe,
it.
you said no across the board, so I'm kind of curious as to why you reject this.
It's just no. there's no words for it. I just don't.
Yeah, she definitely hits the lightsaber.
I just don't like. I just didn't like it.
No, not that you didn't like it, but should it be at least in the contest to be in.
I would say
decided.
that yes, it is.
Oh.
It would be what would constitute as a battle. Yes, with a lightsaber. So yes, if you guys want to do it, I wouldn't be. Yeah, you could put it in, but as far as me saying, yeah, that's great. No, I didn't think it was great.
That's next week's episode, Joe.
I would say
later.
that would. If you wanted to put it on the list, yeah, it could be on the list, but I wouldn't say it's a great.
Okay, I'll take it.
I would choose Obi-Wan Vader New Hope over that.
Okay, well, okay. All right, well, I'll take it for what it's worth. Zenger, I can't imagine you would disagree with this.
Okay, here's my thing though. It's a duel. It's not a lightsaber duel though, because they are not using lightsabers. You know what? I will allow this one. I accept this one.
Zenger, as I stated at the beginning, those are vibroblades with cortosis weaves, so they qualify.
Oh my god, I've been nervous.
I will allow it.
On this podcast. I'll allow it. Okay, Zenger approves. All right, so next we have Kylo Ren versus Luke Skywalker. 115% yes on this.
Absolutely. It's one of the few times where either by sheer coincidence or by design, it mirrors a lot of the stuff that would later would have happened in some of the Dark Horse era expanded universe comics. This duel is something very similar to this situation where Luke sort of steps out in front of all the AT-ATs happens in Dark Empire, and it's awesome, and it's barely a duel, but it definitely should be in there in my book. This and the other one from The Last Jedi are some of the most memorable stuff from those three movies, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Zenger.
Oh no, I was gonna say if we're gonna include the Praetorian Guard, this has to be included. So,
good job, Zenger. Good job.
Because-
I'm glad there's a reason why I had you on this podcast 5 years ago.
yep. This
All right,
fight,
Joe, we're
hands
not even going
down.
to go to you because. All right, Joe, we're not even going to go to you because I think we know what your answer is going to be. Is Joe ferociously nods yes? Is that he agrees with that assessment? Not that he agrees
Exactly.
with this.
I'm going to put this under the label of not my Star Wars, and we're going to move on.
But Joe, it does involve Luke Skywalker trolling Kylo Ken, so that's fun.
that is it's a fun part, but meh. It's like
it's not enough to get
meh,
Joe over the hill.
When I saw this, my reaction was, thank you for doing the absolute least you could do. I appreciate it.
It's like, there you go. Some level of fan service. Yes, I do exist. I do like Luke Skywalker. He was my Jedi Knight when I was growing up as a kid. Thank you. Yeah. He's old now, like me. So,
and let's bear in mind that Anthony Daniels had to remind our good friend, the director, that Luke would acknowledge C-3PO on his way out to suicide himself. So, yeah.
And apparently droids can see Force ghosts. So that's a good thing.
Oh, whoa.
You just want to open a can of worms there.
All right, Rob. Can non-sentient beings see ghosts? That's my question to you right now. That's the real question of this. Can non-sentient beings be cognizant of supernatural events?
The first thing that comes to mind is that because of all those absolutely technically real like ghost hunter shows where they have to use technology to actually observe ghosts, they would
correct.
Be like R2-D2 would be probably sees more ghosts than we even know exist in the Star Wars universe.
So R2-D2 is possibly the most haunted character in the history of Star Wars.
Yes, absolutely.
He's just seeing Force ghosts everywhere. Like, everyone's getting excited because Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are there. R2-D2 is just like, man, there's another one now.
Now I'm thinking in Rise of Skywalker, the scene where Han Solo pops back up, R2-D2 should have acknowledged him.
So the whole time we're like, R2-D2 sees like Leia just like kind of collapse onto like the bed. He was like, oh, hey, what's up?
Definitely.
Okay.
I guess the distinction really has to be that this is not a ghost in the traditional sense. You know, I think it's telegraphed to the audience at the end of Return of the Jedi that nobody else besides Luke sees those three ghosts sitting over there, or I think they would have been very alarmed.
Okay. That's a good point.
God!
What are those blue people over there, you know?
Yeah, so, the way he sort of looks at them and then goes back to join the party, I feel like more people would have been looking at the ghosts if they could see them. So I'm going to say that the force projection of Luke is more of a, he's somehow animating the living force at a distance, remote control.
Instead of remote viewing, it's remote forcing.
Yeah. It's
Thank
a
you, Jeff.
universe where that exists.
Cool. Which means it could exist here. I'm going to do that right now. Rob, can you see my projection in your room?
Whoa!
All right. So moving on to the greatest thing to ever exist in the history of mankind, J.J. Abrams' The Rise of Skywalker. All right. I'm gonna put all my cards on the table. I'm gonna say a unanimous yes to everything in this movie because it's nothing but sheer bonkerness. Zenger literally has his face in his palm right now. Rob, can you corroborate this?
I can corroborate this, but I actually really like that answer, Zach, because it is so easy for me to just type everything in The Rise of Skywalker.
Everything, including Lando Calrissian shooting a stormtrooper in the head with a bow and arrow. All right, moving on. We know Joe's answer. Joe, has your answer changed at all?
No.
What fights are
Okay.
there?
So it comes down to Zenger and Chris, where there's at least
There's 2 fights.
technically 2.5, if you want to be specific.
I can't change my algorithm for half a fight, Zach.
Okay. So what do we have?
We have Ray versus Kylo
Oh,
Ren.
no, I gotta write it
Ray
down.
versus Kylo Ren, and Ray and Ben versus Palpatine.
No.
And then technically Ray versus Palpatine.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lightsaber.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Okay, but Ben versus the Knights of Kylo Ren should count.
Exactly. Everything about this movie should count. I am Rob. Rob, can you please put into the notes right now that Zach is doing an override?
That's my favorite one from the whole movie.
Okay,
yeah.
we are. Rob, please put into the notes. Zach is doing a hard
hard
override
override,
and putting everything from the Rise of Skywalker into this.
I would like to put the lightsaber fight I got into with the guy sitting beside me at the theater, because that was more interesting than anything in this movie.
Zenger personally fought Andrew Jackson during this showing.
The ghost of Andrew Jackson showed
The force
up.
projection of Andrew Jackson.
Yes, Andrew Jackson.
If you can get security footage, we could put it in, Zenger. All
Okay,
right?
okay. I'll work on that. I'll work on that.
Thank you for designing the Instagram thumbnail for this episode.
All right, so moving on. All right, to make this brief, I did my research, like I said. I know I said it earlier, but I want Rob to really emphasize this. I want the Kylo Ren versus Rey fight from the Halcyon Star Cruiser episode in our hotel experience, whatever we're gonna call this.
Do you have video of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is video of it. Yeah, so this does technically,
That's
it is
good.
canon. It has been said by Lucasfilm that this fight, even though it is canon breaking, is canon. Lucasfilm in its almightiness at its finest. All right, so here are some duels I have from the Clone Wars. Just gonna sit there, throw these out there. We have Palpy versus Maul in Savage Opress. One of my favorite all-time duels from Star Wars.
That's a hard yes for me.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Chris Porteous.
I remember thinking it was cool at the time, so we're going to go yes.
Fantastic caveat there. Zenger, do you disagree?
I'll go with it, sure.
Okay. We have Maul versus Ahsoka. I think we kind of slightly referenced this, but this is on my list, so I just want to reinforce that we're going to put this one way or the another from the finale of the Clone Wars.
Yay.
Yeah.
I want to know, Rob, that Joe was very lukewarm on that. Very half-hearted yay. Chris, yay or nay?
Yes, because the most interesting part about it, which is not something you see every day, is when Darth Maul ends up getting caught by the police at the end.
It's not mine. It's not my spice.
All right. This is one that I don't think that these next two actually are not too popular ones, but I think they are noteworthy. We have Dooku versus Asajj Ventress and the Night Sisters, where Dooku is blinded and he's fighting them while blinded.
Meh.
And he throws them out a window.
Meh.
That's how it ends.
Is this the one where he's also wearing his pajamas at the time?
Yes, this is the one where he's wearing the pajamas, which became a skin that you could put Dooku in Battlefront 2 2017.
I have yet to see this, so I'm going to have to abstain.
Okay, so we have we haven't had any of that yet, right, Rob? No abstentions from voting?
No, just a general indifference.
All right, so Zenger's saying no. I'm saying yes.
No.
Chris, this is...
I'm saying meh.
Okay, so we're going to put that as the same column as abstention. So we have one yay and a undecided Chris Porteous.
I'm going to say yes because the Night Sisters are metal AF and are traced back to the novel The Courtship of Princess Leia and also sort of Ewoks The Battle for Endor. So I'm going to say yes because...
Can I vote no just solely based on that yay explanation?
Rob.
Is there an option to give a co-host a swirly?
Rob, strike the mention of Ewok Adventures from the record. Make all of our listeners unhear that he said that. Work on that.
Just want the record to show that I am here, I am present, but I am not voting.
Okay, so that reminds me of another epic sword fight, which is Wilfred Brimley versus Tarak, the Jabba the Hutt goon, who have a sword fight at the end of the Ewok movie.
I remember that.
Jesus.
He was good.
He put up a fight.
Well, this is how overpowered Star Wars Wilfred Brimley is. Tarak has a giant like a big metal actual sword, and Wilfred Brimley fights that sword with a cane, a wooden cane.
Is it a vibro cane?
Rob, have you ever watched this? Because I have never.
I have never seen this. I think I know about it because Chris, you've mentioned it before, but I've never seen it.
I can't wait to see that clip again.
Zenger, you should be pulling up that sword fight on your Disney Plus right now because it is available on Disney Plus.
Even Zenger doesn't want to pull out that sort of like distraction.
Okay.
I haven't seen that in years.
Okay. I got it.
That's probably it's comparable to
a walrus fighting a rhino.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's actually a more action-packed duel than Obi-Wan versus Maul in Rebels.
There's a lot you're saying right now.
Okay, and the last one I have from the Clone Wars that's noteworthy, because there's a couple of interesting ones, but the last noteworthy one I have from the Clone Wars is Obi-Wan and Asajj Ventress versus Maul and Savage Opress.
Can you see that?
The words.
Probably
that
nobody
you're
on this
saying
call
to
other
me.
than Chris will get this.
The words you're saying to me.
Are you choking on something, Zach?
It was Obi-Wan and Asajj versus who and what? What is this?
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Asajj Ventress versus Maul and Savage Opress.
Yes, Rob, they named one of the villain 2 bad words. 2 negative words.
Was it a direct George Lucas decision? Absolutely. Savage Opress, Rob.
insane.
That is a Star Wars character's name.
I cannot wait till I send this list to you guys and you get to see how I don't know how to spell anything after the main 9 movies.
I wonder if he's a relative of the guy who tries to sell death sticks to Obi-Wan.
Elano Slays Bagano.
We can only hope.
I hope that guy is in the Obi-Wan series. He deserves to be in the Obi-Wan series.
He's a Jehovah's Witness just going around preaching the wisdom.
He finds Obi-Wan on Tatooine and he thanks him for saving his life.
He's a member of the
Yes.
Church of the Force.
Could you imagine if like there's Inquisitors like in like the market, and that guy sees Obi-Wan, he's like, "No way, you're that Jedi who turned my whole life around." He's like, "Shut up, there's
Exactly.
Inquisitors over
That
there."
would be perfect. I would sit there and I would say that would be the best thing that Disney Plus has made in television so far. That's even better than the Ultron Luke. Especially since if they got the same actor, that would be
But I think to cut to the chase, Zach, I don't think any of us remember that Clone Wars duel except you.
All right, I'm just going to do a hard override
Okay.
and just put it in there so Rob is forced to watch it at some point.
Okay.
Now all of these clips are readily available on like YouTube, right?
Everything is on Disney
so-
Plus. If you have a Disney Plus subscription, none of this is beyond reproach, except for maybe video game cutscenes.
Right. So when we post this, I'll make sure Rob's list is included with episode numbers if you're curious. But
Yes.
did you have any from Rebels, Zach, or no?
Yes, I did. All right, we have the Grand Inquisitor versus Kanan Ezra from season 1 finale of Rebels.
I haven't seen it.
All right, so Joe is abstaining once again. Chris Porteous.
I'm gonna go no because they've made TV shows, but they also know that the less sophisticated of the fan base requires lightsaber battles at regular intervals. You walk into these lightsaber duels where nothing will happen because you're mid-season or it's season 1. And I like somebody. If somebody's not dead at the end of a lightsaber duel, I think there's somebody messed up, dead or horribly injured.
Okay. I didn't write this one down just as a moment of just, oh God, thought for conversation. We have Ahsoka versus the fifth brother and the second sister. No. Who was the Sarah Michelle Gellar Inquisitor?
I can't. Maybe ninth.
Krista now.
Ninth sister? Yeah, the ninth sister. That sounds about right.
Joe, let's just keep trading off naming Sarah Michelle Gellar characters.
Buffy.
You could have said Daphne and we would have given you bonus points for it.
Terrible American remake of The Grudge.
We don't even know her character's name. We just call it the American remake.
I don't know which ninth sister she is. I don't remember her.
She's
very
the ninth
much.
sister.
Okay.
There's a fifth brother. The second sister is Trilla. Then we have whoever is going to be in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
What am I writing down for this one?
This is a thought exercise,
Okay,
Rob.
okay.
You can expunge this from the record.
Zach, this is shortly before Ahsoka fights Vader, right?
Yes, this is season 2 of Rebels, where at some point, like Kanan and Ezra, like are trying to save like 4 sensitive children from the Inquisitors, and like they're kind of like cornered. And Ahsoka shows up, and she's like, "I'm not a Jedi," and she just like wipes the floor with them.
Yeah.
Rob, can we please mention real quick, because like you're gonna be forced to watch all of this.
Of course.
Like you will be given this. This is the unfortunate pitfall of having my Disney Plus login. There is a point in this where, Rob, have you ever seen an Inquisitor's lightsaber?
If it was in the game I had to play.
Yeah.
Okay, then I have seen one. Yep.
The Inquisitor's lightsaber grants them the ability to fly with it.
Like Thor and his hammer.
Why aren't we doing all these flying duels?
So imagine if the lightsaber spins and somehow it gave you some form of aerodynamic lift.
Of course. Why wouldn't it?
That's the only correct response to that.
I'm with you.
I get it.
So just be prepared for that, because that's going to happen. And it's going to sit there and melt your mind, like it did to all of us in 2016, right, Chris?
Yeah, and there's a large group of people who are currently actively worried about seeing a helicopter lightsaber in the Obi-Wan show.
Yes. It will not happen. They are worried about it.
Yeah, but Ahsoka wiping the floor with, but not killing some Inquisitors.
I'm not including that. I just want it noted for the record.
Yeah, not as interesting as her fighting Vader, which also is like exciting, but also terribly disappointing at the same time.
It's exciting because it's something that you think you'd want to see, but then how it ends is maybe
A cop-out?
arguably the worst thing that could ever happen to Star Wars.
Yeah, so we're at that one now, right? So,
Vader versus Ahsoka is, I would say, a definitive yes, because it's something that's been like 8 years in the making by the time it was debuted.
That was one that we had written down from the start of the episode. So,
Yeah.
okay, right on. We also have from Rebels, apparently, I wrote down Maul versus Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Okay.
That has to be on there because it's probably the most... outside of Luke versus Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi, it's maybe the most provocative lightsaber duel in the franchise.
Okay.
Because they actually got the choreography down right from like the Phantom Menace, and they like emulated it perfectly. Like that will be a fun discussion because I know Joe's gonna fight against it. Zenger's gonna be Zenger.
Wait, what fight?
And Chris, Maul versus Obi-Wan from Rebels.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna definitely do my own thing for that one.
That was actually a decent duel. It's not the substance of the duel; it's what they were saying in it that makes it decent.
Yes, that will be a fun one because that is a provocative.
Because what they do with the laser swords isn't as interesting as what they say while they're doing that thing with the laser swords.
With the laser swords.
Okay, so after all that being said, I have one final one that we have not mentioned yet. All right, I have, and again, this is going to be a weird one where I don't know where the boundary begins and where it ends because a lot happens. It's more of, I'd say less of a duel, more of a conflict. The ending of Jedi Fallen Order. Because there really isn't much, there is fighting happening, but it's more of a conflict because there's so much going on. Do I have to recap what happens at this?
I remember like underwater tunnels and Darth Vader.
Yes, I think that's an oversimplification, but here we are. All right, so basically what happens is we have Cal versus the Trilla. Trilla is confronted by Seer, her former master, and as Rob will say, Seer is the spitting image of Deborah Wilson, right, Rob?
I mean, she is the mocap of Deborah Wilson.
She is the mocap of Deborah Wilson. And you have a fantastic moment where Seer comes back to the light side. Vader shows up right behind her, strikes her down, and possibly one of my probably top 10 favorite Star Wars moments of all time. Seer, with an Inquisitor's lightsaber, is, oh god, lunging at Vader to strike him, and Vader literally just casts her aside with two fingers into what we think is a pit of lava. Even though Seer does come back moments later in that conflict, the idea that Vader is able to dispatch the mentor of the entire game by literally just moving two fingers, I think gives it that alone.
It's so good that they stole it for the end of Rise of Skywalker, and Palpatine just threw Ben in a pit as well, the exact same way.
Okay, whoa. Okay, Palpatine is phenomenal just because he is literally electrocuting like a million ships at once, sees Adam Driver just kind of twitching on the ground, and just distracts him from everything he's been going for.
I know, but
like no,
but with the energy output that Palpatine is putting out to electrocute all those spaceships, he would have accidentally just atomized Ben. He wouldn't have pushed him into a pit nicely so he could climb out later on. But anyways,
exactly. It's the idea that Palpatine has everything he wants within like. Oh god, like he has it. It's not even within his grasp. He has it, and he gets momentarily distracted, and it completely just decades of planning just goes out the window all at once.
Well, you know, you can't think the end of Return of the Jedi was part of the plan. So, you know,
we have to assume that like everything with Palpatine, everything was going according to plan. Zenger is literally just walking away right now. He is so disgusted.
Zenger just died, actually. Yeah,
Zenger's just walking out of the discussion because he's disgusted by what is
to be clear,
discussed.
I just had to stand up for a second.
Yeah,
my legs were cramping, but yeah, I also should walk away.
Zenger's legs were so disgusted by what was happening in this discussion, they had to walk away from what was happening.
My body involuntarily moved on its own.
He astral projected out of himself. Yeah, when he heard that.
Indeed.
But you know that's a awesome duel at the end of Fallen Order. There's lots of fun action set pieces, which make some of the best ones from the movie stand out.
We will discuss this further in the next episode of this, but we do get a moment where Vader is either intentionally or unintentionally succumbing to Deborah Wilson. Rob, ruling on the field, please. Did you ever expect from a Star Wars video game to see Darth Vader succumbing to Deborah Wilson?
You know what? No, because now that you've reminded me of this, I'm pretty sure I have in my gigantic document of notes that I took while playing through that game that I said something like, I don't like that Deborah Wilson can go toe-to-toe with Vader. I'm pretty sure I had that.
But did you expect that? Rob, when you got that game in the mail while I mailed it to you, did you expect that?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay, well, we'll give it points for that alone. And the fact that, like, Vader, essentially, Cal Calrissian escapes because he makes, like, a glass tunnel flood, and Vader has to, like, there's a very interesting visual where Vader is holding off a flood from a, oh god, submerged tube of, submerged, like, what? What would you even call it? Like, just hallway?
I guess.
Yeah, I forget what planet that is, but they do have a lot of those type of tubes on Camino, but I really can't for the life of me remember what planet that is.
Isn't it called like Planet Inquisitorius? Like, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. It's like, yeah. Isn't it like the Inquisitor's secret base? That's also been like, it's been shown in Obi-Wan.
Yes, which is in the trailer for Obi-Wan and Kenobi series debuting exclusively on Disney Plus May 27, 2022.
Yeah, that's a great visual because like the only reason Cal gets away in that one part is because Vader doesn't want to get wet.
And Vader also impales him with his own lightsaber with the Force.
Yeah, that's good too. I guess, Zenger, you did finish that game, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's not look into it anymore.
Yeah.
All right. For the record, I just want it known that I'm holding up the Calrissian lightsaber to the camera.
We're gonna do. Okay, hold on. Please hold on.
No, please turn his video off. Turn his video feed. Zenger's walking out.
We're gonna have a virtual lightsaber duel right now.
Whoa! I'm holding up and using my Obi-Wan lightsaber.
He's gotta go screw the broom handle on.
I feel like we were so close to the end of Zach's list.
It's just starting.
I want this picked up on the recording, whoever ends up editing this. Zenger and I are fighting each other. This is the whole...
Yeah, this duel's the best.
Everybody on the call other than Zenger and I is visibly disgusted right now.
We should have taken video.
Right.
No, it's best that we have no record of this whatsoever.
For legal reasons.
Yeah, take it outside.
Much like the Jedi Temple archives, if it does not exist, if there's no record of it, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
So my question is this: I've noticed the distinct lack of all the duels from Star Wars Visions.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't matter.
Oh no, I'm. Oh, so we're only going with ones that happen in canon. Okay, so that's the only excuse I can possibly think of.
I know somebody submitted one of them. Was it friend of the show Jerry submitted at least one Visions duel?
I mean, they all should have been on there.
If only they mattered.
I mean, they do. To some people. Let's see here.
I know. Okay, I will say, Rob, please include this in your notes.
Okay.
I know Jerry did submit one. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. If somebody wants to go looking, there is one Star Wars Visions duel that has to be examined.
It is Ronan versus Kuru,
That was a decent one.
whatever that is.
That's the duel,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, that's from the episode The Duel. So yeah, acceptable.
Chris, what did you think of Visions?
Oh God.
I like I'm not going to draw this out, Zenger. I only like the one with the old Sith master guy who was somehow like 1,000 years old and like turned to dust after they beat him. The Elder, I think it was called. Yeah, that one was awesome. Didn't like the rest of it.
Blasphemy.
Zach, I think you had one more video game thing on your list you wanted to mention. Is that true?
I think I got everything.
Think you got- okay.
The only other one I kind of had was from Jedi Fallen Order, and it's Cal versus the Ninth Sister. Because I just like the idea of like a giant like behemoth, but like I'm not even going to include. That was
Okay.
kind of like a again honorable mention. The only thing I have to say though, real quick, I just want to present the Zenger from the Force Unleashed. I'm surprised, Zenger, you didn't present Star Killer versus Kazdan Paramis or whatever his name was, the guy with the little like
The pod racer guy. Yeah.
yes, the pod racer guy.
The weird thing with video games, since you control the character, if it's not a cutscene, I just don't understand why we're just not ranking all the time Shakti died.
That's its own episode. Don't spoil April Fool's Day 2023. We rank every time Shakti has died in Star Wars.
But no, I mean, that's the weird thing with video games. I mean, I don't say they shouldn't be included, but it's kind of like me playing sorry, I'm going to do this. Me playing Elden Ring versus Rob playing Elden Ring are two different experiences. It's me in the corner trying to glitch something out, chugging flask, hoping that I can make it through while he is has a mathematical equation and cuts them down in one hit. So
Fair enough.
there is, like I said, video games, while I do love them, are subjective to the individual playing unless it is presented in a cutscene. Like the end of Force Awakens 2, where there's the whole cutscene with Vader fighting Starkiller, and then the clone comes out during that and kills him.
I think I would agree with you, Zenger, there, that the level of player interaction puts it in a different category. Not that we couldn't put that in its own little, discussion or something, but to compare them, I think, with at least the scoring stuff with what we've talked about already is a little strange to me, but I haven't really thought about it until now.
Well, I think there's a little more to it. Like you could say some of the, especially the one Zack brought up from Fallen Order, it's structured in a way where you're sort of pushed through sort of various set pieces so that it does play out in a predictable way. And like sometimes there's what do they call those, like lazy video game moments where you have to like tap certain buttons to
QTEs, quick time events.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's basically a cutscene. So like there's some, you could sort of judge the structured elements of it. There's so many great video game lightsaber duels that everyone has forgotten. Like Kyle Katarn and Jason fighting the ghost of Marka Ragnos on Korriban. Like that was a good one.
Whoa, did you say Korriban?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say that on this podcast?
Oh.
Well, it's still Korriban in the Old Republic MMO, which is
it?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah. But that's not canon
That's a
either.
lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
Okay, so to clean up the list that I have right now, because with everything we've said that we've decided to include that didn't get like overwhelming negative things, we have 28 items. There's a few that I have written down from before we started going through things a little more chronologically with Zach's list that I wanted to bring back up, and we can remove them or put them in honorable mentions or whatever. But the first one, Joe, you did mention it, and I do appreciate it. Dark Helmet versus Lone Star. I'm assuming we are not covering that one, though.
Obviously, because it would win.
It would win.
By dialogue alone, that would win.
And then another one that I had written down that we did not get back to, it looks like. Now, as I'm looking at this, I might have written it down wrong, but you guys please correct me. Or maybe, Zach, this was one you were mentioning. Well, I had written down Kanan, Maul, and Ahsoka versus 3 Inquisitors from Rebels.
Yeah, we talked about that.
That's on there. That's on there.
That is on there. We're good with that one?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Good job, guys. We took off one. No, but that was it. We talked about all the others. So so that is what we're going to have to eventually rank one day, but we're not going to get to which ones we're cutting now because we have something else that's very important to talk about. We have a good bank to go with. We have to talk about, well, now what criteria is going to go into our actual ranking? So it seems like we're all pretty much okay with, the fact that for each individual duel, we are going to give scores based on 4 categories. Now, maybe the 4 is not set, but I think 4 is what we're striving for because that's what I have the scoring thing worked out for already. That's really easy to do. It comes out to 2 triangles and adding their area. So don't worry, everybody. I'll explain that next episode, though. But I figured the best way to start this was from what we've gathered of criteria to put into these rankings. I'll just list them off and we can talk about them. Some of them are very similar and stuff like that, but here we go. One that we talked a lot about in this discussion, choreography. I would imagine that that's a top contender, that we would not want to dismiss the choreography of these fight scenes in movies. Is that fair to say, or does anybody dissent?
Not controversial at all. I will fight anyone who disagrees with that.
Doesn't that inherently make it controversial?
But with that being said, though, wouldn't duration be part of the choreography?
That's fair. That's something we can discuss because you might get more good. Well, that's an interesting point, Joe. If you have a longer fight, it would be one thing if it has a lot of cool choreography, but then, what if it just had like one moment of cool choreography and the rest was kind of, boring or something, where a very small fight just might be that one great moment type of thing. But maybe that's even something, because I think Chris, in one of our Facebook groups, you said duration seems frivolous. I think that was your quote. So maybe we would put like duration as a subset of choreography and say like, if you think it matters, then it is. Because once we get to these actual scores, that's where I think a lot of our opinions are going to come through. But I like that about duration because, you know, I definitely don't think we should just say, oh, this lightsaber duel was short, I give it a 1. But this one was 40 minutes long, so it gets a 5, you know? That just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, if you're noticing the duration, the duel has already failed.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So that's the first one. Another one that I think came up a lot in this was the importance, or maybe to put that in a different perspective, I think, you know, when Zach and I have talked off mic, we talked about maybe fulfillment, you know, like how does it make you feel? But also, Chris, you said a lot of things you brought up were like, is this fight actually important to the story? Or some, I know you said about some of them, they should be important, but they aren't as important. But what do we think about just like importance or maybe the weight of a fight?
The relevance of the fight.
The relevance is another way to go to put it. Yeah. Yep. Importance. We'll put that all together. Sure thing. Yep. And don't worry, Zenger, you especially. I know you love homework. So I will have the rules of the rubric written out for you before we get to the next episode.
Oh, I can't wait to cheat.
So you'll be able to understand everything. The next one that I had down was, now this was, I think, something we briefly mentioned throughout some stuff here, but this was one that I thought of when I was first brainstorming this when Zach pitched it to me. The environment, not only the environment in which the fight takes place, but how the environment is used in the fight as well, like our Senate seat getting thrown around or things like that.
I mean, it's relevant in some fights, but not all.
That's true. That's true. It could also be, you know, like how much do you like the environment being used or something like that. But you're right. There are some fights where it just basically doesn't appear in the slightest. And and we're not going to have any NAs or anything like that.
So something like that would be like under visual appeal.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, that's a good way to put it.
I actually like visual appeal more.
Because you could lump that into a lot of how they use their environment, the look, the environment that's used, everything like that. That could be lumped into visual appeal. It's how they're setting it.
Because I was thinking like Obi-Wan versus Maul. That's obviously at a disadvantage then because it's just in a sandy desert. But if you do that part of it, then the fact that you have the fire lighting and stuff like that can play into the setting of the fight.
So are you guys okay with then, or what about the notion of keeping 2 separate categories, one choreography and one visual appeal?
I would agree with that.
Okay, here's a good example. Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Dooku. Visually appealing in Revenge of the Sith. You know, you got the space fight going on in the background, all that stuff. Choreography-wise, complete, just boring. Like, that's a fight that there's a lot going on, and it should be cool, but overall, it's not that entertaining because of
what's going on around them.
The fact that, what's going on around them is interesting, but their fight themselves is not well choreographed or well played out. So, by that logic, the environment's cool. The fight taking place in it,
I like that. I think that's a great argument to keep those separate, and that makes perfect sense. Another one we had. Another one I thought of just at the beginning. Maybe this is kind of covered by some other things we've already talked about, but when I was thinking of fights and, you know, watching people fight, my thought was understanding. So, like, can you get a handle on the spatial orientation? I think that might also kind of fall into choreography. You know, if we like the choreography, we should. I would think you might feel that same way, and maybe that category would be better set for like big battles, like a space battle, or like another thing in Star Wars with a lot of characters.
I guess something else you could do is definitiveness of the fight. Is it a fight where you know who clearly won and who lost during it?
So everything like that would be your three you could go into 3 categories with this. You could go into context, settings, and choreography. Because the setting would be the environment that they're in, the things that they're using. Mm-hmm. Context is the place and the element of the story. And you also have the dialogue that's going in it. And the choreography is the actual fight itself.
Yep.
That understanding would go into context, obviously, because it's part of it. So the other fourth one though is
so the only other one that I had written down was from Zack when we talked a while about it ago, and originality or ingenuity of the fight. And maybe, Zack, if you remember, that's all I had written down. If there was something else you remembered about expanding on that or something, then that was the last one I had.
That's pretty much correct.
Okay.
I'll take it.
So that would be your 4 then.
Those would be our 4, yes. So
could we have the 4th one be the X Factor? Patent pending on that name. I need to see if our legal team can clear that.
Like you want the wild card? Like you're saying you want like a category to say like, there's some other thing you might think of that makes you really like or dislike, or be neutral, give it a 3, type of thing. That kind of category.
I guess that just plays into like well then again, I don't know, story relevance.
Story relevance would be under context.
Like I'm just saying if I want to sit there and give something like 5s across the board as being it's the best thing ever, and what's your reasoning? Because it's the best thing ever, like that could be the 4th category is like a wow factor, or like just I don't know. I guess that kind of plays into. I feel like. Sorry, what did we say before I completely derailed this?
Originality and ingenuity.
That kind of goes into cinematography to a bit, but
I don't know. I kind of like this notion of like you say the X factor, the wow factor, some sense of like
nostalgia, personal
appeal, and not only how. That one there. That's
no serious. That's it. It's how it made you feel.
I'll agree with that, because I was about to say the only problem with nostalgia is, you know what? Let's go with that. Let's go with nostalgia factor.
I actually also like having a category that's a little undefined, like in this way, or we're combining it with just like emotional resonance, because from you 4 talking this entire time, that came up in almost every single duel we discussed. So I think that's a great way to, open up the conversation when you have to give a number to it.
Yeah, exactly. Most of them, when we were discussing all of Andrew Jackson's duels, we all got very emotional during
like,
those.
what are you going to say, Zenger? So any other thoughts, or those 4? So the 4 that we would have right now, and of course, I'll expand on these, and we'll expand on them, define them when we get to the actual ranking. But choreography,
yes,
relevance / importance / context. That's all one category.
Works.
Visual appeal / setting,
yes,
and then personal appeal / nostalgia factor.
Yeah, I like it.
I think that's pretty good. Nostalgia is kind of I would find another word for that, just because sort of like calls into play like personal memories and stuff, which are going to be like the least objective ranking system you could possibly ever have, because it's going to depend totally on like what movie you were first introduced to and how old you were and you watched it, and it's just gonna remove data from the equation rather than add it, as far as I'm concerned, because it's going to be so personal. But we could find something to call that more nebulous factor there.
Sure. All right. Well, then that's our 4. That's going to be very easy to calculate. And so next time, whenever we actually do the rankings, we'll have a smaller list than what we get down to 27. Or something like that. We'll have a smaller list. We'll define those categories. Basically, what's going to happen is I'll have it all written up in a way that I can very easily put in your guys' scores, mine as well. I'm going to be ranking them. And it'll calculate, based on a scoring algorithm, like a final total. So there'll be one number per duel. And then that way we're going to actually get to say, like, well, who did Zack or Zenger like it better? Did I like it better than Chris? Things like that. And then you guys will be able to let me roam free after we record that episode, and I can figure out, well, like, what's the average Knights of Vader ranking for all this stuff, and I'll do all the wonderful statistics on it. I guess at the end of this episode, while I was taking notes during this is the first time I've ever taken notes during a Knights of Vader episode, there were just a bunch of things that came up that I figured would deserve honorable mentions, and if I could just run through these very quickly. Of course, Dark Helmet versus Lone Star. I think, Joe, even once we have the actual rubric, you could just give me 4 numbers and I could give you your score for that. You know? Zack versus Zenger on the recording of this episode.
Yes.
Damn straight.
Count Dooku's pajamas, somebody mentioned. I felt that was worthy of an honorable mention. Scene 1138 reimagined on YouTube.
Cancer.
Chris, I think you mentioned this one. Django robot versus glass or blinds? Question mark.
Are the windows in Padme's condo glass?
The world may never know. Palpatine war cry.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor versus stairs. I like that one. I might give 4 numbers for that one next time. And then, of course, Andrew Jackson and his horse Buxton.
And Parrot.
So I think we did it. I mean, we've done most of it. I think, we'll figure out however long it takes us to, or you guys really, I'll send you the list and we'll whittle it down. I think, we can get a sense of, how much you want to talk about them once we have the actual categories defined too. But then it'll actually happen. And we can even do this for the rest of time. So what else do we have to cover in this episode? Did a new trailer drop while we were recording I have to react to?
There's always a new trailer dropping.
I do want to point out that there is an episode of Futurama where there is a mathematical theorem that was created to explain something in that episode.
The body switching episode, right?
Yes. I hope that Knights of Vader has a mathematical theorem because of this. And it will be called the Zenger theorem. Not because I came up with it, but because I'm taking credit for it right now. Thank you, Rob, for letting me totally hijack it. I will be, when I accept the Nobel Peace Prize for it, I'll make sure to maybe mention you.
This is evidence that Zenger tunes out whenever I begin to say math, because I know about 10 minutes ago or something, I said my algorithm boils down to adding the area of 2 triangles. I'm not breaking ground over here.
Hey, I never thought that there'd be a mathematical theorem from a Futurama episode, but time makes fools of us all.
Oh boy. All right. With that being said, so concludes this episode of Knights of Vader and Star Wars podcast. Check out the Facebook group. Type Knights of Vader into the good old fake book machine, and we will come up there waiting for you at KOV Podcast on Instagram if you want to send Chris Porteous all sorts of questions and comments. Thank you, as always, to My Inferiority Complex for providing our theme song.
Woo! You're welcome.
All right. And as always, please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast whenever you can, whether it be iTunes, Spotify. New thing that Spotify is doing, you actually can rate podcasts on Spotify, but you actually have to also listen to them. So if you just try to review bomb us, it will not work. You at least have to listen to some of our nonsense before you can give us a 1 out of 5-star review. For questions, comments, concerns, or snide remarks, you can find me on the Cinemoddities podcast. Not this month, though. Maybe sometime in the future, right, Rob? We definitely have another Fort month on the horizon.
I can not only confirm that we have another Fort month on the horizon with some great anniversaries of movies, but we also do have in that Fort month an episode in the can in which Zach and I go into great detail about the slap at this year's Oscars.
The smack that was heard around the world.
Yes.
All righty, but when we are not recording Cinemoddities, Rob, what are you up to?
Of course, you can find me in the show notes through the actual title of my band name, An Insperiority Complex.
Bless
so
you.
you don't have to worry about typing it in wrong. You can, thank you, Zenger. You can just go to the show notes and find it there. I also do want to mention, if you like what you hear there, if you want to hear some other stuff from me and my buddy Matt, who are in a different band, which goes by a much easier name, and they're all real words, The Immortal Lansberries. I believe by the time this comes out, we will have a new single released as we get ready for our new album. So everybody go check that out.
All righty. Mr. Yazzo, when you're not completely throwing the sequel trilogy under the bus, where can people find you?
You find me. Yeah, that's where you find me.
I was like, did he cut out?
No, I am lost. I'm about ready to be found, hopefully somewhere soon. And the Force is with me, and I am with the Force. So
Perfect.
All right, Zenger, what is going on the non-existent Zeng Wars podcast?
Well, we are. By the time this comes out, you should be able to. It will be the week of the 300th episode of ZengThis. So we've officially done 300 episodes on ZengThis. So yeah.
How many Zengies are we overdue for?
Oh, plenty of them by this point. I really wish we had called what happened at the Oscars beforehand, because it would have been memorable. But just your final Andrew Jackson fact of the day. He received a 1,400-pound block of cheddar cheese, wheel of cheddar cheese, that apparently sat around the White House lobby for 2 years. Also, Andrew Jackson is a true monster of history. I just like making fun of the fact that he existed, and all the stuff I said about him is factually true to the best of my knowledge. So,
full disclaimer, Zenger was not alive in the 1800s, so we do not know if any of this was either true or false.
I'm not admitting to being alive during the 1800s right now.
Is Zenger a vampire? Comment down below. See if Rob's algorithm can prove this.
I have a question for Zenger, though.
Yes.
At one point, do you, instead of doing Zing this, are you going to be doing Zing that?
Oh, there will come a time.
Is that when you...
There will come a time where, you know what? That's the ZengThis review podcast where people review the episodes of
Really?
ZengThis.
Wow.
Sure, let's go with that. Zach, put it together. Chris, where can people find more from you?
Go ahead and follow the podcast at KOV Podcast on Instagram. And you can, if you want to see some of my photography, you can follow me at the Chris Porteous on Instagram. Aside from that, I will be fending off the angry ghost of Andrew Jackson. His Force ghost is going to be haunting us after this episode.
It should be noted that Zenger's reference about Zeng that is possibly one of the oldest references ever, because that was the joke for the longest time. For oh good lord, you have to be a very well-steeped Knights of Vader fan to get that reference. And one thing I should have mentioned when it came to duels in Star Wars, we didn't mention.
Oh, really?
Does the Mandalorian versus Giancarlo Esposito count as a duel from The Mandalorian Season 2?
Only one of them has a lightsaber.
One of them has a stick, though. A lightsaber's a stick.
If we all forgot it existed, it's automatically disqualified.
Well, there's also the Ahsoka
like that.
versus the lady during that one episode.
Ahsoka versus that lady. Rob, please put that in the spreadsheet.
That's going in there? Okay.
The lady, that's her name. Alrighty, folks. As is always, good night, but not goodbye. And may the Force be with you.
I'm pretty sure Jocasta Nu fought somebody one time in Clone Wars 2, so that should be in there.
Oh,
She fought Vader in the comics with a lightsaber sniper rifle, if I remember correctly.
I hate everything about this.